He shows up out of nowhere. No introduction, no backstory, no family tree, just there, standing in the middle of a dusty road after one of the most brutal battles in the ancient world, and the most powerful man alive stops, bows his head, and receives a blessing from him. Who is this man? Where did he come from? And why does the Bible, a book obsessed with genealogies, lineages, and origin stories, go completely silent about his? If you've never asked that question, you're about to. And once you do, you won't be able to stop. Welcome to Faith Compass TV. If this is your first time here, hit that subscribe button right now. We go deep into the stories the Bible tells, but most people never fully explore. Drop a like if you're ready to dive in, and comment below. Had you ever heard of Melchizedek before? Let's see how many of you knew this name. Let's go. It's around 2000 BC. The ancient Near East is in chaos. 4 kings went to war against 5. A coalition of armies swept through entire regions, taking prisoners, looting cities, leaving destruction behind. Genesis 14 reads less like a religious text and more like a war chronicle. Names of kings, names of cities, a valley of tar pits, a catastrophic defeat. And in the middle of all that carnage, a man named Abram, not yet Abraham, gathered 318 trained men from his own household and launched a night raid to rescue his nephew Lot. He won against a coalition of 4 kings with full armies. He won. Now picture the scene after the battle. The dust is still settling, bodies on the ground. Abram is returning with the rescued prisoners, with the recovered goods, with his people. He's a warrior who just pulled off the impossible. He's riding high. And then Genesis 14:18 happens. One sentence, 11 words in the original Hebrew. Then Melchizedek, king of Salem, brought out bread and wine. That's it. That's the entrance. No fanfare, no backstory, and his father was this man from this tribe, of this lineage. Just Melchizedek, king of Salem, priest of God Most High. He brings bread and wine. He blesses Abram. He speaks a blessing over the God who delivered enemies into Abram's hands. And Abram, this giant of faith, this man chosen by God to father an entire nation, gives him 1/10 of everything. A tithe to a man we know almost nothing about. And then Melchizedek disappears from the narrative, just like that. No death recorded, no descendants mentioned, no further story. He walks in, blesses the most important man in the biblical narrative, and walks back out into the silence of history. For most people reading Genesis, this feels like a footnote, a strange detail, an odd cameo. But here's the thing, the Bible doesn't do odd cameos. Every detail in that text is intentional. Every name carries weight. And the silence around Melchizedek? That silence is deafening. Think about what Genesis does with everyone else. Adam's genealogy, Noah's sons, the table of nations, Abraham's family line, Isaac, Jacob. The Bible is relentless about telling you where people come from and where they're going. That's the whole architecture of the Old Testament. Covenant, lineage, promise, fulfillment. And then there's Melchizedek. No father, no mother, no birth, no death, no tribe, no explanation. He is, in every literary and theological sense, a man without an origin story. Now fast forward roughly 1,000 years. King David is sitting on the throne of Israel. He writes Psalm 110, one of the most quoted psalms in the entire New Testament. And in the middle of a poem about a coming king, a coming conqueror, a coming ruler who will sit at God's right hand, David writes this: "You are a priest forever in the order of Melchizedek." Stop right there. 1,000 years have passed. Melchizedek appeared in 3 verses and vanished. There are no temples to him, no religious order bearing his name, no tradition keeping his memory alive, at least not that we can see. And yet David, under divine inspiration, reaches back across a millennium and says, "The one who is coming will be a priest, not like Aaron, not from the tribe of Levi, not through the established religious system of Israel, but in the order of this mysterious, ancient, originless figure." Why? What does that mean? Why would that matter? If you were a Jewish reader hearing that psalm, you would feel the weight of it immediately. The entire priestly system in Israel was built on bloodline. You were a priest because your father was a priest. It went back to Aaron, back to Levi. It was institutional, hereditary, traceable. Melchizedek breaks all of that. His priesthood doesn't come from lineage. It doesn't come from a system. It just exists, eternal in its quality, uncontained by human structures. And David says the coming one will be just like him. Then comes the book of Hebrews, written to Jewish Christians in the first century who were under enormous pressure to abandon their faith and return to the old covenant system. The author of Hebrews does something remarkable. He spends 3 full chapters, chapters 5, 6, and 7, unpacking Melchizedek, not as a historical curiosity, as the key to understanding everything about Jesus. He quotes Genesis 14, he quotes Psalm 110, and then he says something that would have stopped his readers cold. He says Melchizedek was without father or mother, without genealogy, without beginning of days or end of life. Resembling the Son of God, he remains a priest forever, without beginning of days or end of life. Now, is the author of Hebrews saying Melchizedek was literally immortal, literally divine? Or is he making a literary and theological argument that the way Melchizedek appears in the text, with no record of birth or death, no beginning or end, makes him a living type, a foreshadowing, a shadow cast by someone much greater? Theologians have wrestled with this for 2,000 years. Some believe Melchizedek was simply a righteous Gentile king, a man who, outside the covenant with Israel, genuinely knew and worshipped the true God. His mysterious appearance in the text is just that, a gap in the record. History had no reason to preserve his genealogy, so it didn't. Others believe he was something more, a theophany, a pre-incarnate appearance of Christ himself. The bread and wine he brings echoing forward to the Last Supper, the blessing over Abram, foreshadowing every blessing that would flow through the covenant. And some interpretations in Jewish tradition, including writings from Qumran, the Dead Sea Scrolls community, portrayed Melchizedek as a heavenly, angelic figure, a cosmic priest, a being operating at a level beyond the human. You can feel the weight of the mystery pressing in from every direction. Here's what we know for certain. In a book built on family lines and historical records, one man stands completely outside of it. His name means King of Righteousness. His city, Salem, means peace. He is simultaneously a king and a priest, 2 roles that in Israel were strictly separated, never to be combined. He predates the law of Moses. He predates the Levitical priesthood. He predates the entire religious system that Israel would build its identity around. And the New Testament holds him up and says, this is the order to which Christ belongs, not bound by ancestry, not limited by institutional religion, not beginning with birth and ending with death, a priesthood that transcends the entire system. Melchizedek doesn't just point to Jesus. He points to the parts of Jesus that religion often can't contain. So here's the question I want to leave with you tonight. What does it mean that God chose to introduce this figure with no origin story, and then used that very absence, that silence, as the theological foundation for the eternal priesthood of his Son? Maybe the silence is the point. Maybe the mystery was always intentional. Maybe some things in God's economy are designed to exist outside the boundaries of human record-keeping, not because they are less real, but because they are more. Melchizedek walks out of the pages of Genesis without explanation, and 2,000 years later, we're still asking who he was. That's not an accident, that's design. If this video made you think, made you dig deeper, made you see something in the Bible you hadn't seen before, hit that like button right now. It genuinely helps this channel reach more people who are hungry for exactly this kind of content. Subscribe to Faith Compass TV so you don't miss what's coming next. We have more deep dives into the hidden figures and forgotten stories of Scripture that will completely change the way you read this book. And drop a comment below. Who do you think Melchizedek really was? Human king, divine appearance, something else entirely? I read every single comment. And if you want to keep going right now, the next video is right there on your screen. Don't stop here. The rabbit hole goes deeper.